FlipAnythingUSA. So it's Saturday morning. I'll be teaching class here in about 2.5 hours. Just thought I'd check in this morning. It's kind of nice. You know, if you get up early, hopefully you're an early riser. I think I always believe that the early bird gets the worm. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean getting up early, but it might mean getting there early, getting on the offer early, being the first one there. I think is part of what that means. The mornings, you get to reflect on what you did this week. That's Saturday, right? And maybe what you got going. I did have something pretty cool yesterday. I hadn't even talked about this yet. I can't talk about it too much, so I don't have it in writing yet. But I landed another owner finance deal on a substantial property, and this is just somebody that's ready to sell. He's got listing agreements sitting on his desk that he doesn't want to deal with. I trimmed my palm trees, so I'm showing off my palm trees. They look like hell. They hadn't been trimmed in about 5 years. Anyways, it's just, I can tell you again, I tell everybody, when people ask me, what's the biggest mistakes I've made, and it's almost always not moving fast enough. That's where a lot of good deals are lost, is not moving quick enough, not jumping on it. And so this is kind of a perfect example. I heard about something, I immediately dropped everything, went over, and tried to find the owner. And now I have, and it didn't take 20 minutes for us to sit down that I convinced him that I'm the best person for him to sell to, and for him to own or carry, and really, this is something. I did a video the other day on Jerry Norton had done this double dip strategy, and some people thought I was kind of harsh on him. I didn't think I was harsh at all, but one of the things that he didn't mention in that basically it's go to the listing agent, right? So the listing agent gets both sides of it. That's what he's calling a double dip strategy, which is fine. I had no problem with the content that he had. I just thought it was a lot about not very much information. But what wasn't said, and I'm going to say it now, and I said it then, was not only are you incentivizing the agent to give you the most money, to give you the best chance of getting it, because the agent gets both sides of the commission. So, obviously they should be incentivized, if they're like most people, to make more money, get both sides of it. But the other thing is that one of the most important things is that you're dealing with the person that's closest to the seller. And when you're dealing with the person closest to the seller, they can answer questions like, would they be open to owner financing? You ask, if you're a one-off from the agent, meaning you're going through another agent, they don't know that. They're not going to be able to answer that quickly. But the seller's agent, he is going to have the highest likelihood of knowing that. Even if he doesn't know, it's a phone call away from him. He's going to pick up and call, rather than you ask your agent and your agent ask him and then he asks the seller. And it also makes you look weaker as a buyer, by the way. But there's that advantage. And the other one is being able to show the agent, the selling agent, that you are really credible. You let them know. If you have cash, I always sellers agents, I always tell them, look, I got cash. I'm going to pay cash for this. I'm going to close it. Don't worry. There's no issue one way or another. No contingencies. Because I'm a no contingency guy. The contingency with me is, if it doesn't have clear title or something like that. But that's one of the best things about dealing direct with the selling agent, of course, is just being able to know more about the seller, what their situation is, if they're desperate, if they can, if they have room to go down, if they owe anything on the property. And then, of course, the other thing is making the seller's agent aware that you're the best bet, because that's really their fiduciary obligation, is to make sure they're getting their seller the best deal. And the best deal could mean the guy that's going to close, not just the guy that pays the most. So, hey, please thumbs up if you like this. I think that's decent information, because I can tell you it is. I don't know if anybody's got any questions. I'm just, like I said, I'm just getting my morning coffee. I got my twin teenage boys, they're traders, and this is one of their cups, and they really live by it. That's what they do. They eat, sleep, and trade. That's what it says. And it's funny because that's what I've been doing with real estate my whole life. So their whole life for sure. But anyways, so anybody else got anything going? Anybody got anything they're excited about, or got any potential to go really well? Hey, Sean. Keith, what's status on maybe buying the business? Oh, come to Australia, Paul? Yeah, I wouldn't mind going to Australia. You know, I planned on going there. You guys got a lot of gold. I guess they're on the outback, or of course I'm kind of geographically challenged. But man, I've seen some good-looking pieces of gold. I got buddies that are prospectors. In fact, one of my best buddies, Jack, he's actually in the beginning of my book. I talk about Jack. Well, they call him Artifact Jack because he's got such a keen eye for finding artifacts, you know, of all kinds. But he's also a treasure hunter, and he goes to Australia looking for gold too. Let's see, Keith wrote, oh, well, man, you got to give him a push, Keith. Give him a push. So check this out. It goes directly, they goes directly to what you're talking about, Keith. Keith just mentioned, he said he's waiting on the guy to make a move. And this is a business purchase, maybe real estate purchase too. But right now, with with COVID, oh, I said it again. I suppose it hurts your video when you say it. But I care more about giving you good information than anything. But with this current issue, people are scared. And some people are confident, oh, that things are going to go great this way or that. But you believe me, it allows you to put doubt in their minds. It allows you to put doubt in your own mind, right? I have some doubts myself. But what I was going to say is, you know, because, you know, if somebody says, well, I'm just going to hang on a little bit longer before I put it up for sale till this stuff clears up and things get better. And I said, well, really, you think you're waiting for them to get better? Or do you think you're waiting for them to get a lot worse? And then they kind of go, you know, makes them think, putting doubt in their mind. And, you know, it's funny because we'll have to do this too. Somebody wrote me the other day and I wanted to know about the ethics of getting a good deal. You know, he was feeling bad. He could buy a property for $210 that's worth $260, and he's already flipped something. And he's saying, man, I don't know, you know, should I feel guilty? You know, how should I feel about that? And look, I made a ton of money off of people's ignorance and selling too cheap and not doing their due diligence. And some, you know, and I agree. Yeah, sometimes you go, you know, I mean, if you're really getting a lot of deals, sometimes you go, God, is this any better than ripping somebody off? I mean, it's either because I find it unethical to sell people crap information or to make false claims of experience in real estate and then sell a shitty course, and I think that's ripping off. I think that's unethical. But his point was feeling bad about making money on a property that you're buying from somebody else, and guess what? That's how the game works. You're making money off a piece of property, and it belongs to somebody else before you get it. That's the power of buying used. You can buy stuff that's paid for, that's under market. Well, no, I'll tell you why you shouldn't, because probably the third biggest purchase, I'm not at the time, it was the biggest purchase. I bought 80 acres for $4,000 an acre, $320,000, and you know, pretty soon that $320,000 property, which was probably worth $400 the day I bought it, but I got it owner carried, it became worth about $150 because we had a major downturn, and now it wasn't worth half. It wasn't worth half of what I paid for it, and I bought that with a buddy actually, and so, you know, that's what I told the guy. I said, listen. Because he said he feeling guilty making $50,000. I said, hey, what if you buy it and it drops to $175, and you just bought a $175,000 piece of property for $210? You know, then how are you going to feel? Okay, because that can happen. So, and then the seller's smarter than you because he offed an asset that was going down in value, and you got stuck with it. And that happened. It happened to me. And so, again, it's kind of like, you guys know I'm not a speculator. I buy, and then I buy it for less than it's worth the day. I purchase it so I can sell it for less immediately. And I was actually just watching one of my old videos. Somehow it came up and I watched it, and it was one that had my mom. My mom's got dementia. And I walk her around a piece of property that I was buying and talking to the camera like I am right now. And anyways, you know, listen, some things can drop. Some things can drop. And property values do drop. I've seen them drop. I've seen them go up drastically. I've seen them drop drastically. And I've seen everything in between. But on average, if you do it right, you're always you can always make money in a market. I don't care what it's doing. You can always make money in the market. So let's see these other follow-up questions. You're in a, okay. Yeah, Paul, you'll have to show me. Maybe we can talk about your property in Australia. Not now, but some other time. So let's see, R3. I'm in a 1031. Builder says they cannot meet my deadline, even though they assured me on several occasions they could. Well, if they have a listen, what side are you on? Are you the purchaser? Is that what it is? You're buying something a builder's building for you, or is it a builder buying a piece of property from you? I hope that's where you're at, but you have to tell me more. Okay, wait, you're writing up here. I think you say you need a bridge loan to close before the property is constructed. Okay, so look, think about this. You say you got $25,000. So look, that's going to cost you about, is that a long-term capital gain or a short-term capital gain? Because if it's a long-term, I mean, you're deferring $5,000 roughly, plus the Obama tax, 20 almost 24%. Otherwise, you can add another 2,500, and you're looking at maybe maybe $7,000. I know it's a chunk of your 25. I get it. But you can do a reverse 1031, and what you can do, but I don't know if it's worth it. I mean, I'm doing it right now. I'm paying $1 million cash out of my pocket for a property. Well, I'm actually going to get into it more. It's interesting. I learned a little bit more about 1031s. I found out something I can do that I didn't know that I could do. And it's kind of a reverse 1031. They call it a forward and a reverse. It's kind of both. It does a little of both. Okay, no, you're saying all of it would go to taxes. The property I bought in Hawaii, I did 2 cash out refis on it first, so all of the gain on my sale would go to taxes. Oh, I got you. Yeah, I mean, then you might need to do a reverse 1031, which is basically kind of a bridge loan like you're talking about. It's to get you there anyways, right? So I would look at seeing if you can go, I don't know what your financial situation is, but if you can, and see, the bank doesn't want to touch, the banks don't want to touch a reverse 1031, because when the bank loans you money, the property is in your name, they feel good about that. If you want to do a 1031, a reverse, where the holding company, the accommodator, holds your property, well, you have to buy it and put it in their name, and the bank. All right. So we're going to get to Keith here. Keith says, I was watching one of your recent videos and you said you were subleasing. Well, with the other barbers there, that would be like subleasing, kind of, I guess. Well, yeah, you're renting chairs. I just got my hair cut the other day, and my guy there does the same thing. He pays me rent for the building, and then he's got about 8 or 10 chairs in that place. And each one of those chairs, I don't know how much they represent, but I'm guessing they represent at least a few $100s a month. So, presumably that's, helps cover his overhead and allows him to keep more. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. He does a good fade. I'm not a big fade, but you know what I'm talking about. It's all new to me. The shorter hair is even new to me. Okay, you can buy it all cash. Thanks, Keith. Let's see, I could buy it all cash, but I don't want to tie 159,000 on a property that's not built and not generating any income. Well, I mean, then you might just have to take your lumps. That's the problem with. I mean, listen, it's a good problem to have. Deferring taxes is a great problem to have. I'm poo-pooing certain things, and I'm feeling sorry for myself because, I might have to pay $300,000 in property tax if I don't, if I don't get something bought right away. So nobody's crying for anybody that has that problem, other than, it's like, well, figure it out. Huh. It's funny. I got a little rabbit. Check it out. You guys see that rabbit? Look at that rabbit. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. It's just the reality of some deals is that you just got to deal with it. But you're lucky if you have enough money that you can bridge your own deal, like I'm doing right now. And as usual, I'm I'm down to days where I have to pick out the property that I'm going to defer my stuff to, and I've got 3 of them on there, and I know which one I'm doing the 5 acres. I'm getting the 5 acres on the highway. I really like that. In fact, what I did is I reached out to the guy. There's another guy that spent over $500,000 on 2 acres that's right next to me, and I kind of wanted his 2 acres. So the reason I was calling, I was trying to get a feel for him to see if he might not close on the deal. That's why I was calling. I was trying to see if he might not close. Or maybe what I was also thinking is that I would consider buying him out, or saying, hey, I'll give you 10 grand, yeah, I'll take your place. But on a $500,000 piece of property, he probably wants 50, not 10. But it was nice to talk to him because he like me, he's actually a little more of a developer. I've built buildings and different stuff. I've rezoned and done a lot of stuff like that. But this guy is a pro at putting deals together. A lot of times he likes to put them together with doctors. And, so a doctor goes in and they buy and they develop, and then the doctor makes that their suite that they move into. So it's kind of an easy deal for a doctor to do. A lot of people don't realize this. Many doctors really, really damaged by this pandemic stuff, really hurt. And the telemedicine, here's why. The telemedicine sounds great. Sounds like easy money, right? Because they just do it over the phone. Guess what? They don't get paid as much for telemedicine. Insurance says, we're cutting that bill in half, which rightfully so they probably should. But it's kind of tough when you already got the overhead built in and you're switching over to that format. Let's see. It's your first 1031. Yep. Yeah, listen, I've had a few 1031s that failed. In other words, I couldn't find something good enough that it was worth it to me, and I took my lumps and paid hundreds of thousands sometimes. Other times, I've gotten 60 or 70% of my covered. In other words, I was able to defer 60 or 70% of the gain, and then I had to pay tax on the balance that I took. That's happened too. It happened to me this year, actually. Anything in New York, but I almost bought a real cool place. I feel like I got cheated out of it. In Edgewater, New Jersey. I used to take a water taxi right across the river from New York over to Edgewater. Just on business, I went there, and I knew somebody, and he died, and I was going to buy his building. But the CPA got in and found out I wanted the property, not the tools, and I think he weaseled me out of there somehow. And I think he got it or gave it to a buddy. Okay, well, let's see, Paul. If half of my he's asking if half of my properties go vacant, and the taxes went up 30%. Well, that's a devastating one for sure. But listen, if my properties went half vacant, I can survive that. Actually, I can survive that. I don't want to survive that, but I could survive that. And as far as the taxes going up, listen, not everybody has the money to fight when you've been treated terribly, but I do. And so, listen, sometimes you have to take your city to court, and it's not fun because they're fighting you with taxpayer money. And that also goes for your county if they're taxing you too much. And I've done both. But guess what? Eventually, you get to court, and you will prevail. If you're right, you'll prevail. And just make sure you're right. Because one of my point is they can't raise the taxes 30% if the vacancies are 50%, because that means there's a problem. And if there's a problem, then we go back to the income approach, because that's how my kind of properties are evaluated, are by the income. Because nobody wants to buy a vacant property, especially if everybody's half vacant. And let me tell you, one time I went to a town, I had to drive out there. I was like, what on earth? I can get a 8,000 square foot building, look beautiful. And Edgewater was in a big industrial area for a long time. That's its roots were in industry, and there's a lot of pollution there too. But now it's getting nicer. It's a lot nicer, I know. And it's probably a hell of a lot nicer since I was there 10 years ago. But again, what I was going to say, what was I talking about? Jeez, threw me when you talked about Edgewater. What's swimming in the pool? That's probably my pool cleaner. Yeah, that's just something that crawls around and cleans. But hey, be sure to like the videos. This one particularly, if you want. Anyways, I just share. If you wrote a book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. Been a bestseller on Amazon and Kindle. Also have a mentorship. I'm about to go teach that shortly. Keith is in here. He was in the mentorship, and he still is. You're in for a year, but you get a crash course in the first month. Thanks, Keith. You get a crash course in the first month, and then you can keep going to class every weekend if you want, but it's ongoing. But what I live and breathe real estate. That's what I do, and I enjoy the heck out of it. And like I say, it's kind of like Christmas, anticipating that gift, which is the deal you made. And but you can get hurt if you jump in and not know what you're doing. You can get hurt. So get my book, because one thing you'll go away with, if nothing else, even if you don't, make that big knockout deal, you'll be so much smarter, and you'll be so much more careful to make sure that when you buy under market. So the $10 alone, even if you don't buy anything, it's worth the book. Okay, let's see. Oh, thanks. I'm getting compliments on the book. Oh, good. Michael says he's been doing the same thing that's in my book even decades ago. So I like it. I got a lot of savvy investors that own my book, and they love it. And, and they learn things that they didn't know. And, and some, listen, sometimes I read my own book, because it's good to know that you're doing the right thing. Sometimes, even if you know everything, it's good to be reaffirmed that you're doing the right thing. Because sometimes, it's a small group of people that really know how to really invest in real estate really well. And so when you realize by hearing somebody else's comments that's been successful, you're going, oh, good. I guess I'm doing the right thing. What else? That's great, Michael. I'm glad to hear that, Michael Moses. Claude, you drove where to buy inexpensive units? You drive there to buy, Edgewater. Oh, yeah. Dude, I do not want, there could be anything in that pool. I have a pool guy who takes care of my pool. Anyways, so that's what's going on. I got to go to Starbucks and I have my second cup of coffee with my buddies there, and then I head to my studio, and I start my next mentorship class, and that's about it. That's what's happening with me today, and I don't know, but I like doing these little live deals here and there. Who's an early morning person? Who watch? I'm both. I'm early morning and late, because I only sleep about 5.5 hours. So I can do videos at night. I can do them early in the morning. I just wonder what people's preference is. Hey, Tony, good morning. Oh, when I lost my train of thought. Okay. Oh, God. Yeah, well, listen, it's happening more. Look, my dad died of Alzheimer's. My grandma died of Alzheimer's. My mother has dementia. Now, the dementia my mother has is unrelated to the Alzheimer's. The Alzheimer's is genetic. My mother's was blood pressure. She didn't take care of her blood pressure. She didn't manage it. And so that's why she's in the hurt she's hurting. So I manage my blood pressure, but I still have the fear. I still have the fear of the other disease. But so anyways, yeah, you better get what's in here as fast as you can if you want to take the mentorship. But otherwise, get my book, because that will live on. Yeah, thanks, Paul. No, Tahan, that is not true. Forget that right now. So Tahan wrote, what state are you in, by the way? Because as you know, every state is very different when it comes to being successful at purchasing. Not true. Not true. Listen, Tahan, you don't have my book. That I know. If you are a savvy investor, you know deals are in every city, everywhere. Okay? You buy based on what the value is today, number one. The other thing is you have to, you just have to understand the same things that happen in your city that create good deals happen in every city. Divorce and death, depression, meaning jobs go away, or or even a good economy. Everything changes the value. Everybody wants to own property. Businesses want to own their property, especially. People want to own their own homes. I mean, Grant Cardone doesn't want you to own your own home, but people that know what you want to own your own home. Some point you want to own your own home. If you're going to have kids and you want stability and you want them to go to a good school, those are just natural things. It's also nice to have a piece of property that nobody can kick you out of. I've got a compound here where I'm at, and I love it. And oh, hey, Ellie, good to see you. Got to wake up for the kids. Yeah, my boys, they're up early morning to trade. They can even trade, I think, on Sundays. So Saturdays are sleeping day. Let's see, Paul, please run me through exactly how your next deal came. Yeah, I can always, listen, I can show you guys my deals after the fact. Yep, death, divorce, disaster, depression, they're all somewhat related, I guess. Keith has it down. And old age, listen, I'll tell you what, health, and that's pre-death, right? Sometimes I'm talking to a guy, I think he's 80 years old and he's 65 and he's smoking and he can barely walk. And, he's just bad health. It happens. Yeah, I would do everything the same, open source. He said, what if I had to start over and I had 10K, what would I do? What would I do first? Now, I'll tell you what I'd probably do, to be quite honest. It's good to have a skill. Okay, you got to have a little income. I try to have a job where I have flexibility and I can do something else. In other words, the fax machine had just come out in my early days of working, like when I was 19. And so I got my first property. I got a fax machine back then for $1,800 that spit out this heat-sensitive paper that would turn black in the sun. But that was a godsend, because I could sign a contract through a fax remotely, and that was cool. But I was self-employed. If you can be self-employed and make a living, that's a great place to be. That is a really, really good place to be, because you at least own your own time. Or if you have a job where you can get on the computer, where you can, because I sign contracts now on my phone. A PDF reader, I recommend everybody get PDF reader if you do any amount of deals. Because, if people don't send you a document by DocuSign or the various things that they use, PDF reader is wonderful, because you can sit there and doctor the document, you can counter it, you can change it, you can cross things out, and you can sign it and send it back. And also you can stand side by side with somebody, and you can both sign the agreement that's on your phone. It's a little bit small, but you can do it. Okay, so Tahan, racial discrimination in real estate. I don't understand. Racial discrimination in real estate is in every city. Is that what you're saying? No, I'm not saying that. Because if that's what it doesn't matter. That's not what I'm saying. Listen, do you think Listen, do you think even if somebody was prejudiced, do you think they care when they sell a piece of property? As they're making their profit, they're not going to, they don't discriminate. You may be scrutinized. Somebody may think, hey, whatever, this particular race, I'm afraid, like there's, it's funny. Sometimes there's apprehension in dealing with a different race because of a lack of understanding. And a perfect example is like Vietnamese. A lot of Vietnamese that don't know English real well, they appear to be pushy. And you may misread them as being rude. They're not being rude, but think about it when you're trying to talk in a different language. If you're trying to say something in Spanish and you don't know much Spanish, you say the fewest words you can, which makes you sound very curt, very abrupt, and can sound very rude. So, instead of saying in their language, "Hey, how you doing this morning? Hey, can you tell me how much that particular item costs?" Instead, you go, "Hello, how much is that?" And now you sound like you're barking an order, and that can, so just think about it. So, 'cause I've had Asian people, "How much you pay? How much you pay?" And they talk in an elevator. I'm like, hey, I don't like your approach. But it's because they're at a loss for words. So they're saying the most they can with the vocabulary that they got. And that's how it is. But I personally, listen, I've employed a lot of people over time. And I've had black people, I've had Mexican folks, I still have a lot of Mexican folks, I've had gay folks, I don't care. If you make me money, you got a job. If you make me money, you got a job, okay? And I remember I had one black guy, and he'd go in the bathroom and smoke a cigarette and drink a little bit of whiskey, okay? And I had to cut him loose. And it wasn't because he was black. It was because I thought he was going to cut his fingers off. He was in carpentry. I didn't want him to cut his fingers off. And, I had another guy who was a friend of mine. And he come back, and he actually had a tall boy in his hand drinking. I go, "What the hell are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, just one beer." And I'm like, "Nah." I go, "No." I go, "You can't work for me anymore." So, listen, I don't know. I don't know what your experience is with, if you've had any issues like that, Tejan, but I hope not. But I'd find a different neighborhood if you do. Let's see, what else? What are your recommendations on the best or finding the best lenders to use? Well, shop. Listen, you got to shop, and guess what? Let them know you're shopping. Let people know you're shopping. Yeah, I'm with you, Paul. I mean, if you're a businessman, you don't see color, you see green, you see money, and you're happy for anybody that can make you money, and you're happy to pay people money. And listen, the bottom line is, as an employer, and people don't like this example, I don't think. Some people do, some people appreciate it, but the bottom line is, when I hire somebody, I want to pay them as little as I have to and still make them really happy, right? And on the other side of that, they want to get as much money out of me as they can and still keep full-time employment, because that's the variable. Somebody charges you more than they're worth, or somebody you pay real well, and then they start dragging their feet and or they're not as productive. You start to look at them as a little pile of cash that is not very productive anymore because they're not working as hard as they used to. Likewise, people become more valuable, and you also have to recognize that, and you have to raise them up. You have to raise them up and pay them more, and that's the balance. Jim Rohn. Listen, if you guys don't know who Jim Rohn is, watch Jim Rohn. He's the guy that came before Tony Robbins. He's probably Tony Robbins' mentor, and a lot of these other guys. Jim Rohn is like one of the fathers of motivation and good common sense. But what he will tell you is, don't ask you why you don't get paid enough. Ask yourself why you're not worth more. You're not worth more. And the good example he says is, if you work in a building and there's people making more than you, then you need to ask yourself, what are they doing right? What are they doing right? Oh God, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I'm in more than one state, so I don't know what you think you figured out. But Compton, California is good in real estate this time of year with no discrimination. Really? Yeah, well, I bet. Uh, but and see, like I like Keith, and he knows he's been in the area that I've been. He's a lot closer to it than I am now. Uh, but when I was in Compton, they wouldn't even look at me. I'm looking through glass, and they're looking down at their desk, and I'm knocking on the door, and they're not looking at me. So I want to call it discrimination. But I think they were just self-preservation. They didn't want any trouble, and they thought I was trouble. Uh, yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, Jim Rohn is so awesome, man. Get Jim Rohn. Yeah, uh, Tahan. Yeah, I don't know. Tahan, I would just say, go watch Jim Rohn. Watch some Jim Rohn, and believe me. Listen, you're listening to a businessman right now, and I can tell you right now, discrimination is petty. Discrimination is for petty people, and it's probably for people that are either employed in shitty jobs or people that are unemployed and miserable. Because step outside of that, And I can tell you, and I've talked to people both white and black, that are hitting me up or begging or asking for money, and when I see like a young black man or a young white man, but a young black man particularly, because I talked to him not long ago, big old beautiful smile, he's got great teeth, and he's talking to me, and he's being real polite. And I said, man, what the hell are you doing here? Go get a job. You could sell anything. You could sell anything. And he's like, oh, really? And he just didn't have any confidence. And a lot of people don't have confidence that should. They don't have confidence because maybe they had somebody shitty and negative in their life. And believe me, my grandfather, thank God because he was a negative son of a gun. I mean, he was just terrible. And you tell him something, and he had a reason that was bad. He could find something bad in anything. And and I do a little of that as I play devil's advocate. Somebody shows me, hey, I think this is a great idea, and then I shoot it down for whatever reasons. But I like that. I like people to shoot down if I say, hey, what do you think of this? I like it to be shot down as much as they can, because if my own common sense says, yeah, you know what, weighing everything out, I'm still buying. Okay. But it's good to hear that feedback. It really is good to have that feedback. So let's see. CJ Walker, I can honestly say you are the real deal when it comes to real estate. I would honestly put you in a category of guru. Okay, thanks. Yeah, the connotations with guru isn't very good. I'll take this really good investor, because that I have a record of. Let's see. This past week it took a new LVL. I'm not sure what that means, Tony. Again, there's a lot of terminology that you kids use that I don't. I say really good deal, and somebody else says, oh, that's a hack, and whatever, So I know I'm getting old because I'm starting to sound like my dad or my grandpa. Yeah, that's good advice, Tony. Zig Ziglar was good friends with Jim Rohn. But I tell you what, I think I've seen them all. I haven't watched that much Zig Ziglar, but Jim Rohn he will not let you be weak. If you start complaining about the world, he says, look at yourself, do something different. Because if you're doing the same shit and it ain't going nowhere, then that's shame on you. You're doing the wrong thing. You got to change it up. And that's for anything, right? If you keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result, it kind of makes you a moron, right? So anyways, hey guys, I got to get ready. I'm teaching class soon. I thought it was going to be here in 10 minutes. It's 40. Always enjoy the heck out of it. Thanks for joining. Thanks for asking questions. Thanks for sharing. Really means a lot to me. And anyways, I'll be busy online teaching people in the Zoom class for 3.5 hours last weekend. So that's what I got to look forward to, which I enjoy it. But it's gonna be a long morning. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks, and share, subscribe, please, and please, hey, do me a favor, hit the like button, and if you can, throw a couple comments in there, because we do these and then there's no comments, and then people think, oh, there's nothing here. But if you would, anyways, thanks again, and we'll talk to you.